It's Friday. It's the end of the week. It's not quite over yet. We need to talk about a little draft here, folks, and get into some conversation.
Is that an emphasis
some of
on
these
little?
guards? Maybe. Little draft. And one guy in particular, one of my favorites. And look, while he's one of my favorites, I'm not going to say he's my favorite in general. Everybody here on the set likes the guy as a player. We're going to talk about the guards that are focused in the top 10, but also with a real focus to start things off on this Friday about Oklahoma's guard and the riser right now in the early parts of draft conversation and the evaluation, Jeremiah Fears. Welcome to the PHLY Sixers podcast. We're here on the Friday, as mentioned. Derek Bodner is back. Kyle Newbeck. I'm
Fresh
Devon
off of
Givens.
Taking a bird out of his house and doing all kinds of handiwork at his home.
And Bree, of course, producing. All of you great people hanging out with us in the chat. We thank you for hanging out with us on this Friday. It's been a big last 24, not even 24 hours yet. We're almost there. Let's say about 18 hours with the NFL draft starting last night. All the coverage from the team beginning last night at 8 o'clock with Bo back. Congratulations to Bo and his family, his wife, right, for having the baby.
Great sign from Julia,
yes.
by the way, unveiled during the draft show.
Fantastic sign. Fran and Zach, and then Zach bolting to get to NovaCare to get some of the reaction from
Leadfoot Berman himself.
Yeah, man. And it's a quick drive, too, especially that late at night. Breeze right there. And so it was fun. So, again, day 2 for the Birds. So make sure you all check out later on tonight with the NFL draft coverage from our great team here. And that is the great folks at PHLY Eagles. I believe it's 6:30 tonight that they get started. Right, Bree? About 6:30, somewhere around there? 6:30 tonight. So make sure you check in, everybody, with the NFL draft with the team tonight. All right, we got to get into it,
Now
man.
we're talking draft.
We're talking draft. And, boy, I was happy when Kyle brought this one up. Let's talk a little Jeremiah
It's
Fears.
a Devon Givens Friday on this set, boy.
Oklahoma Sooners dynamic guard, and a lot to like about this guy, Kyle, just in general. And there's a lot of pros, and there's the one con is the one con that drops him from a lot of the conversation from where you would like to have him maybe on your particular team, whether it's the Sixers, the Wizards, the Hornets, whomever. But the guy is just a talented guard. And he's listed at 6'4" with the Oklahoma Sooners. They finished off in the NCAA tournament.
I'm going to start listing myself at 6'4", I think.
Dude, I'm going to start listing myself at like 5'10".
That has about as much basis in reality as him being 6'4", but we'll get to that.
5'10", baby. I'm 5'10". You guys just didn't know it. So, look, 6'4", really talented guard. In his last game, I believe, I didn't check the box score. I just remember, I believe he had about 20 points in that game.
20, exactly.
Four rebounds, 4 assists, somewhere right around his average. He averaged 17, 4 and 4 all season. And he just performed really well. He was an all-SEC performer. He was the top rookie, one of the top rookies in the SEC. Just a really talented guard. It made sense for him to come out of the and declare himself, which he did a little bit earlier this week. And there's a lot to like about this guard. But when we also talk about these players, most of them are going to be in the range of 5 or 6 for the Sixers, or maybe a potential trade down scenario for Daryl Morey, Elton Brand in the front office, if that is what they desire to do at that point, depending on where things fall on May 12th for the lottery. But this guy's really good. And he's so good even at 6'4", he's just worthy of the conversation of being that early riser that's pushing him up in the conversation in that top 5, top 6 of the NBA draft today.
So have we said his name yet? Jeremiah Fears.
Jeremiah Fears, baby.
It's Jeremiah Fears Day. So the catalyst for today's conversation, everyone who's not as much of an obsessive as we are about the NBA and the draft, Jeremiah Fears, as far as I can tell and we can tell, appears to be the guy that is making some real headway from end of the season, or at least late in the college season, to right now, which is when workouts are being scheduled. Guys are ramping up toward. I used the phrase ramping up. I need a shock collar to get that out of my system.
It is a useful and fair phrase to use. It's not
It's
our
just
fault they ruined it.
PTSD attached to it, man. So
it reminds me of Office Space. It was a perfectly fine name until
Michael
no
Bolton.
talent. Bleep, bleep, bleep.
So Jeremiah Fears, in a lot of the bigger services either mock draft or big boards has gone from, I think he was a back of the lottery or mid lottery player, slowly moved into, I think, in pretty firm top 10 territory. And over the last couple of weeks, as we get closer to the draft, he's now in firm consideration as a potential top 5 pick in this draft. So I'll just go through a few examples. The ESPN crew, so Jeremy Wu and Jonathan Gavoni, they have Jeremiah Fears at 5th on their big board. So that is a change of 2 spots. He is now in front of Tre Johnson, in front of Jakucionis, Maluach, Knipple, and Queen, guys that we have talked about at least a little bit. Kevin O'Connor over at not the Ringer, previously at the Ringer,
Force to have it.
at Yahoo, has him at 5th on his big board. So in front of a lot of those same names, in front of Tre Johnson, Knipple, Maluach, Queen, and at 10, by the way, CMB, my guy, who we've been talking about quite a bit.
Sure.
The one outlier right now, the Ringer has him at 13th. I believe that's Kyle Mann and Danny Chow have him at 13th. They have some outliers in their own board, which maybe we can get to later. And I was not able to find Jonathan Wasserman at Bleacher Report, another draft guy that I respect. His most recent ranking of Fears was at 8 on his big board. That was pre-March Madness. But his most recent mock draft from the beginning of this week, where he simulated the lottery, Sixers had the 2 pick in that scenario, by the way. Fears went at 5th to the Washington Wizards. So there is a pattern emerging of a lot of these, the most well-known and well-respected draft people saying, this kid's in there. And I get it to some extent, right? As Devon brought up, 17-4-4 in the SEC. And I think the thing that really jumps out for me when I watched him, the number of games that I watched from him, is that he was their offense. He was the catalyst behind that team, despite being a super, super young prospect. He does not turn 19 until, I believe, late October. I know it's October, but I don't remember the exact birthday. And if you look at the trajectory of their season, it was very clear what happened. He came out to start the year like a house on fire, and I believe they were either 12-0 or 13-0. They're nationally ranked. They're a really hot team and the best conference in the country. Middle of the season, he hits a wall. There was a stretch of games from, I want to say, early January until about mid-February where his production sagged, his efficiency was bad, turnovers are up, and Oklahoma goes off a cliff. End of the season, he has a great run to end the year, right? Devon and I were talking before the show. His final 3 games of the year, SEC tournament against Georgia, 29 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists. SEC tournament against Kentucky, and they made the tournament, as did Georgia, 28 points, 4 rebounds, 5 assists. Final game of his collegiate career against UConn, back-to-back defending champs, although we're down this year. 20 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, and only 2 turnovers, which is a key thing. So when you consider how young this kid was and how much was put on his plate, it is hard to ignore him as a top of the draft guy. The problem is, as has been alluded to a little bit already, he does not feel like a guy. If you're talking about fit, most of these prospects in the lottery, or at least the top 10, you can make some credible case like that guy can play with Maxey, that guy can play with McCain, and they can figure out a workable combination. Fears feels like a pick that you'd almost have to make and say, we know we're moving one of these guys at some point. More than likely it would be Fears or McCain, because Maxey is the more entrenched player, because the size, the ball dominance, the lack of current outside shooting, those are all worrying signs for his fit in Philadelphia.
Yeah, they're very worrying. And it's not like I think some people hear that and be concerned, like, oh, well, you don't have to worry about fit. Like Joel Embiid, don't build around him. This isn't a fit with Joel Embiid that anyone's concerned about. Nope. This is a fit with your 2 cornerstone guards in both Maxey and McCain, and I don't think he can fit with either one of them. It's not an offensive fit either that you can necessarily scheme your way out of. It is I don't think he can be tenable defensively next to either of them. And it's not, it's not just strength, because quite frankly, he started the collegiate season at 17 years old. He can grow into, fill out his frame. It's that he is short with not a great wingspan. not great physical tools, and I think he's going to get picked on. And the combination of both of them, I don't really know how that's going to work. Like if you had no guards that you were concerned about, if you were just trying to get a guy that you believed in long term, Fears is somewhere in my 5 through 10 range. I just don't know whether you can take a gamble on that with who you have. I do think his skill level is high. I know he shot the ball relatively poorly. I think a lot of that comes down to the difficulty of the shots, team around him,
he's
how
pulling
much
from
they asked
deep
him
on those threes.
I have it almost, I don't want to say no, but I have very little concern over the shot translating. I think he can get to the rim. I think he's a better playmaker than some of the people we'll talk about in this range. Like if you were just talking to me about a prospect, I like the way he approaches the game better than someone like Tre Johnson. But Tre Johnson is a couple inches taller, can get the shot over defenders a little bit better, theoretically can project as a better defender just because of the physical tools. Or I think there's a lot of, just being locked in, commitment to defense that I trust Fears more. But if you're too short and can't get through screens, I have pretty major concerns.
So let me ask you this before I get to the things that I like about him. What we had these same concerns about Jared McCain, and he passed some of that test in those 19 games that he played when he was out there. Why is that any different than Fears?
Well, we don't really know if they passed the test.
Well, at least for how we felt. The initial thought of why it didn't work was you can't draft him here because he can't play next to Maxey. Now there's both Maxey and McCain, but as you said, playing next to either of them, he doesn't fit. We had the same concern about McCain.
Yeah, and I still think that's a concern with McCain. I don't know if those two can fit defensively, especially when you start talking about playing in high leverage playoff type atmosphere. So I think, and second of all, like McCain is just a smarter defender, I think at this point, and he's a stronger defender, like physically stronger. His lower body is substantially different.
He's got Saquon Barkley, like,
and we talked to people. He had a reputation in the Duke weight room and like with their strength and conditioning people of like, this kid is in there all the time.
Yeah.
And the other difference is McCain was a teens pick. You're talking about top 5, top 6 pick. Like you take that game. If we were talking about a 16th pick, sign me up for Jeremiah Fears. I will buy into that talent, see whether or not it works. It's just a different proposition here at top 5, top 6. Yeah,
no, it is. And I don't disagree. Had to ask the question since that was sitting there. But for me, what I like about him is there's a lot. As these guys said, I like the fact that he puts the ball on the floor. He can finish with either hand when he gets to the painted area. He touches the paint a lot, gets a lot of great paint touches, great pace with his game, plays under control, doesn't get sped up to what he doesn't want to do. He'll destroy a defender on the switch, like kill a defender on the switch, whether it's with the quickness or the fast, where he has to go really fast and get it done. I think he understands the game, as you guys said, really, really well for a point guard and kind of talk about
a young one at that, right?
Yeah, a scoring point guard at that, but a young one, to your point. Good vision and really good passing that, as Derik pointed out, it's a little underrated by the passes that he makes because his assist numbers aren't necessarily high, number one, and a lot of people haven't seen him. And it's like you mentioned, Kyle, it's the talent that's around them too, where they have to finish, and they don't. And
that tournament game against UConn, I was like, brother, you should probably have like 12 assists with the creating you're doing in this game.
He's amazing in the open floor, again, finishing with either hand. He will not surprise you and dunk on you. He will just dunk on you. And he has really good shot mechanics. So those are the things that I really like about Jeremiah Fears at 6'4" for what he does. And he comes also from a basketball family where his dad played college basketball. His brother currently plays on Michigan State as a freshman, and he was next to Jase Richardson in that backcourt. And they just have a family lineage of just basketball, and you could see it. And seems like, at least from some of the intel that I've also gotten, that he is a hard worker. Not necessarily a weight room demon like Jared McCain, but he is a hard worker and tries to get better at everything.
And I also think what I have heard is he knows that that's something he needs to improve, right? And so that, to your point,
and you could see
he's a hard worker and he understands, like, I got to get bigger.
Yeah. And you can see the difference from those USA videos that we have seen and some of the measurements that you guys were talking about, where you could just tell how his body has changed once he got to Oklahoma. So imagine what it's going to look like not only this summer, but also when he gets to his NBA team and he goes through their weight program. When I was listening to him in the conversation this week with Jonathan Gavoni of ESPN, he said he's around 181, 185 somewhere now with his body. So that's encouraging. And the guy's just a good basketball player. The fit at 6'4", which he's probably 6'2", 6'3", that is the concern, of course, for the Philadelphia 76ers, especially at 5 or 6.
And for reference, when Devon mentions he's at like 180, 185 now, he was at 169 at the USA basketball camp last year. So that's a pretty significant jump.
Yeah. So that's the hard work. That's putting in that work and making sure that he knows what he has to do and he's doing it. The shooting part is a con of it's not efficient enough where he needs to be much better. What I do love is that he's working with Mike Miller as part of his agency and working out in this offseason to fine-tune, hopefully, some of that stuff because the mechanics, again, are already there. It's just making sure you knock those down, and it all starts in the offseason by going into that work. So some of the other cons is it's just really the fact that he's 6'4". And in this situation...
It's not 6'4".
6'2", 6'3", 6'4" with shoes, as Oklahoma tells
like
you.
Iverson was 6 feet tall, right?
Hey, man, they listed me as 5'8" in high school, so I was good with that. I'll take that lie. 5'9", actually.
Unfortunately, if you would have gotten to the NBA, they would have put you through the combine and we would get real measurements.
Yes, they would have.
So.
You could lie in high school, had that stuff in the paper, and it was all good. So that's it. And my issue, too, is this, and these guys know it. I was a big Dennis Smith guy when he came out of the draft, and everything there said this guy's going to be good. I thought he landed in the right spot when he went to Dallas because of the coaching. And Luka comes in, all right, big guard. He can play next to him still. It didn't work out. And I'm not saying that this guy doesn't have the necessary work ethic or is going to fall by the wayside because he doesn't like his role on this particular team. That's not even any of that. It's just that, again, 6'2", 6'3", 6'4", whatever he is, the situation doesn't necessarily work with the Philadelphia 76ers, unfortunately. He's probably going to be my favorite of whoever goes elsewhere that's not going to fall in the Sixers uniform because of how much I like this player.
Yeah, so I want to add something to your list of strengths that you talked about there. And this is a trait that I love seeing in any young guard. He gets to the line a lot, right? And he does that we brought up all the things. He only weighed 169 pounds a year prior and has put on some weight since then. But despite having that smaller frame, he seeks out contact. He wants to hit people first. And that's how, as a guy who comes into a college season in a tough conference, basically weighing 170 pounds, you get to the line over 6 times a game. Like that shows a lot because his game is predicated on, he's got a good first step, right? He's not an elite athlete, but he's a good athlete. Good quickness, good speed, but what he is really good at is the start-stop, the keeping guys on their heels, the herky-jerk type ball handling, and a term that has come to the forefront in draft conversations a lot is deceleration, right? A guy who can go from that top speed, quick stop, and then explode out of that. That's something he's really good at, and he can leverage whatever strength he does have. And I do like the two-handedness out of that. I think while he probably leans a little bit too much on this right now, he's comfortable and has like a workable runner and floater package. So we talk about with small guards, you got to come into the league with a plan, right? You can't just go from, I physically dominate everybody to, oh my God, everybody's 7 foot and 6'8" and it's hard here. And I think he has at least a reasonable plan to attack inside the arc despite those size concerns. So like offensively, I see the ingredients for a high-level offensive player, right? I do think it's going to take some time. His turnovers are high. I think the thing that if you can be encouraged by turnovers, I think a lot of the ones that I saw in games I watched of him are him being a little too bold and just he's got the ball in his hands a lot. It's not what I don't like to bring another prospect into this, Jakucionis, who we will talk about quite a bit probably between now and the draft. There are a decent amount of his turnovers that are just, he wasn't quick enough, and then he got stuck in that mid-range area, and he's just kind of looking around in no man's land, and I don't like seeing those. I'm okay with a guy is trying to hit a pass over the top, or he's trying to split 2 people in traffic. Those are things that either you can get better at or can get ironed out as you get older. And I think I see more of the too bold stuff from Fears. I do think he He might be slightly overrated by the draft community as a playmaker right now, but I think the scoring is good enough. The rim pressure is good enough that he will be a good creator at the next level. So he has a lot of indicators that I like. We say it all the time. I wish he was 6'5", like a real 6'5" too, not the listed 6'4", and he's probably closer to 6'2". If this kid was a few inches taller, I don't think it'd even be a question that he'd be a top 5 prospect in this class, given the production, given his age, given the upside. And to add on one last thing, the free throws, the volume is good. It's even better that he's got that volume and he shoots 85%. That all the indicators are that eventually this kid will shoot. It's just a matter of when and what the ceiling on that is, given his shot selection.
Yeah, really good prospect. Might not necessarily work out for the Philadelphia 76ers. We'll see how things play out once again when we get a final version of the what the lottery order will be for the draft.
And just real quick, because Music Lover 31 brings it up that we don't have the official combine numbers yet. We don't. That will be in mid-May. We do have, he was at Nike Elite in 2023 and then USA Basketball in both 23 and 24. Measurements without shoes, 6'1", 6 foot 0.5 inches, 6'1". So that's why when we scoff at the 6'4", it's because he's not 6'4". I don't know why his team listed him that way.
Again, I was listed at 5'9". It happens. All right, when we come back, take a quick pause. Come back, we'll get into more of the prospects, some of which, again, top 10 conversation for some of these guards. Later on, we'll get our daily Tankathon spin. Derik is back, so we're very happy about that since I got the 7th overall selection on Thursday. Not good.
See what happens when you take
leave you
a day
alone
off?
for one day, Devon. Bree, you're spinning next time.
It's just not working out.
No, Bree's got
for
the
me.
perfect record. She can't ruin it.
She's got number 1 overall. You can't do it. So Derik's back for that. We'll get into some news and notes a little bit later as we hang out with you on this Friday right here on the PHLY Sixers podcast. All right, folks, and did you know that hair loss is common once you get to around that age 35?
Yes, I did.
Why do you think I'm always the one that's reading this script, right? 2/3 of men already experience hair loss and thinning. But don't stress, because GLAT Hair, they got you covered. With cutting-edge treatments like TED, the PRP treatments, they help you keep the hair you already have and help bring back what you've already lost. John Marks, of course, our great partner here at the PHLY Network. He has been a big advocate for these great people from GLAT Hair and Dr. Morgenstern and teaming up for many, many years. And it's great to have John here as a spokesman to let you know how it goes. You've watched John's show, you'll see the full head of great hair that he has. It's not surprising that the GLAT Hair name has such a distinguished reputation with over 30 years of experience in restoring hairlines. It's clear why patients repeatedly choose the GLAT Hair team. GLAT Hair has perfected the GLAT Hair technique, which includes one-on-one care, a 100% personalized hair restoration plan tailored specifically for you and your hair loss, follow-up care, hair loss prevention, treatments, and additional services. GLAT Hair by Morgenstern Medical is the country's premier hair restoration destination. Ready to defend your hairline? You don't have to go overseas to Turkey or any of these places. You just simply stay here and go visit GLAT Hair, now partnering again with Dr. Morgenstern. Visit GLATHairMM.com or call or text 610-980-4000 and one of their team members will get you set up.
And guys, just like your favorite team needs a home court advantage, your home needs a home floor advantage. And Empire Today can help you get it. Empire Today has flooring experts, dedicated flooring professionals who focus on flooring every single day. We've all been to those big box stores who might have a flooring department, but the person helping you with the flooring may have been doing sinks yesterday and could be stocking light bulbs tomorrow. Empire Today lives and breathes flooring, and they will be with you every step of the way. They're flooring experts. Bring the showroom right to your home. You pick the right flooring and the right colors for your space so you can see how it looks with your furniture and in your house. You get precise measurements taken and have all of your questions answered so there are no surprises. With Empire Today, you get clear, upfront, and all-inclusive pricing. Plus, you can schedule installation as soon as the next day. Schedule a free in-home estimate today because some things are just better at home. PHLY listeners can receive a $350 discount when using the promo code PHLY. Yes, you heard that right, a $350 discount with code PHLY. Restrictions apply. Visit empiretoday.com/PHLY for full details.
Welcome back to the PHLY Sixers podcast here on the Friday. Gene says, does GLAT treatment work on chest hair? I want a 70s look. So text them. Ask them. Text
Talk
them.
to the experts at GLAT and you will get your answer.
Absolutely. Let's tell you about we're talking about draft. We're talking about draft lottery. Well, first, sign up to become a member. I think it runs through the weekend, the draft special here with the limited time intro offer because the NFL draft day live running from last night through Saturday. I think this was going to run through the weekend. $36 limited time intro offer, so you can sign up, become a member at allphly.com, be part of the community. The Discord, 20% off of events, get a t-shirt as well when you do sign up, and you get to hang out with us. Then thereafter, after reading all the great stories about Jahad Campbell as the Eagles' first round pick, everything that's going to happen today, what's going on with Shedeur Sanders, and all with the family, and moving on to day number 2.
I might need to mute his name on social media.
It's all over the place.
I can't. It's too much.
Did you hear Baldy say that this morning he might fall to the 3rd round? All right. So anyway, make sure you sign up, and then you get a chance to come hang out with us on May 12th for the draft lottery party right here in our offices, in our studio, to hang out with us to talk about where the 76ers may fall in the draft. Do they keep their top 6 pick? Do they fall out?
Rise?
Or rise. Or rise. Yeah. Maybe they go to number 1, right? Cooper Flag. So Derik can stay with us and everybody's happy. And you get Cooper Flag.
Boy, that was ominous. Derik's not
Yeah, I
going
was
to
gonna
stay
say,
with
what?
us.
Well, he said he needs it for his life.
I said it's one of the most important things in my life. I didn't say I was going to die if it didn't happen.
Not that. I meant just be here physically and on the set.
Well, now that you said that, Bree can stitch that
So what are
together.
you saying?
and
I
make
get
it-
fired if they don't get Cooper Flag? Like,
No,
where
I
you
don't
going
want
with
you
this?
walking
You
away
are the guy who
disappearing.
spins the lottery.
So you're
more
not
often.
disappearing anywhere and just going off walking because you're frustrated. But
I mean, that might happen.
yeah, we'll all be here on draft night, lottery night. We hope that you're able to hang out with us there on that night as well. May 12th, go sign up so you can get your ticket. Come hang out with us here at the offices. Pop a shot, food, drinks, conversation. We'll do a show that night as well, reacting to whatever happens, rising up in the draft part, and getting number 1 overall pick. We'll all have it for you on draft lottery night. All right, let's get to another prospect here that we want to talk about. If we're talking about guards and we're talking about top 10 guards, I mean, we can kind of just go back to the first one that outside of Dylan Harper, who we focused on a lot, we go right to V.J Edgecombe and discuss him because the conversations around that 3-4, where I've said more Ace Bailey, Kyle's hanging around there with me on the Ace Bailey. Derik, you've been more of that, if it's that 3 and you have a choice between the 2, that Edgecombe is the one for you, at least today.
Yeah. And a big part of this, sort of like an unspoken part of this, I won't say a big part, but certainly part of it, I just don't believe in Ace. So like if I truly believed in Ace and his ability to figure it out at his size and his scoring potential, Ace would be my 3rd ranked prospect.
Frankly, he might be your 2nd ranked prospect.
be.
If there was, in the reality where you believed in him, Rutgers' season would have gone a little differently, I think.
So, you know, it's in part, I like VJ a lot. I don't necessarily see star upside with VJ, but I think there's a much more, you know, it's easy to envision a path where he becomes a good player. Like the way I like to look at draft prospects a lot, we talk about upside a ton, but we also need to talk about probability. So like, I'll be like, all right, this guy has a 5% probability of being a star, a 10% probability of being an all-star, like a 30% probability of being a starter, and so forth and so on. And Ace is going to have more star upside than VJ. I believe that. I believe that pretty comfortably. But I think VJ everywhere in the middle, from all-star to solid starter, is going to be significantly higher as well. And I just view so many more team constructs where I think VJ is going to be a useful member to help you win games. Might be as a 3rd option, but I see a lot of team constructs will be the case. I have a lot more questions with Ace. So, like, I'm not going to sit here and try to sell you on VJ because you can watch him at times and you'll see explosive athleticism and great body control and ability to hang in the air and contort himself and make shots at the rim. And you might think, well, put him in the NBA, maybe he's going to pop more. And he might. He quite frankly might. But it is, for a guy who has that kind of athleticism, I think he projects very easily as I want to say role player, a very good role player as well. The question are going to come down to half-court creation. You know, he doesn't shoot the ball well off the dribble at all. I think it's in like the mid-20s. I'll have to double check that. In fact, I'm sure when Kyle is going on his monologue, I will double check that. He doesn't really have a ton of he slows down with the ball in his hands quite a bit, I think. He isn't able to leverage his athleticism and dribble. Like, I think the dribble slows him down. And he's just not a great creator in the half court. And I think people are going to focus on that and concern themselves with it. I think he's a real good point of attack defender. I think he's a good off-ball shooter. He does a good job getting out in transition, making off-ball cuts. And when he has closeouts to attack, he has the athleticism to make aggressive, impressive plays at the rim. But, like I said, I just don't know if he has the sort of on-ball creation, the ability to, just run a simple pick and roll with him, have him create out of it. I don't think that's the kind of guy you're looking at. And because of that, I understand if you're not really sold on him as a top 3 prospect.
I'll say what you said in a different way. I think VJ is a culture setter player.
Sure.
I think Ace Bailey will be dependent on the inherent culture of your team to reach his outcome. Now, I do think, and I've said this on the show, it's why I've waffled on 3 versus 4 and how I rank these guys. I think the Sixers are better set up to bring in Ace Bailey. You add the size, the athleticism, the shot making, although it was not as good as it probably should have been this season at Rutgers, and say, you don't have to carry the mantle of this franchise. You can come in and, even if Joel Embiid's not healthy, right? Even if you just take Joel off the board and it's PG, it's Maxey, it's McCain, and whatever else you have left, you're still, like, best case scenario, you're probably the 3rd or 4th option at almost all times if you're Ace Bailey. And you have to learn and you have to be coached into, I'm focused on the little things, on spacing, on cutting, on rebounding, on defending. And I saw some comments in the chat that were like, Ace doesn't defend at all. I don't agree with that. I think his defense was streaky, and it certainly was nowhere near as consistent as you would want it to be. But I think there were spurts during the season where it's like, this guy put it all together, had like a dominant rebounding game, a great weak side rim protecting game, and you could sell yourself on defensive upside. Where I think the difference is with Edgecombe is he plays hard all the time. Yes. He wants to defend. He wants to be, he cares about winning through his play. You see this through his play. Like, I can't tell you, Ace would probably sit in an interview and be like, yeah, I want to be an NBA champion. I want to win. Well, VJ, that shows up on the tape, on the floor. And when you talk to people about his time with the Bahamian national team for, what was it, Olympic qualifiers, FIBA qualifiers, whatever it was, he got rave reviews for how he showed up in practice, how he performed in the games, setting the tone each and every day. And so to Derek's point, as you're trying to weigh the different probabilities, those things carry weight, right? Like, a lot of the times when we go back and do retroactives on, oh, this guy should have been taken here, and do like redrafts, most of the time the big separator in those instances is not because a guy is 6 inches taller. It's not because a guy is necessarily that much better of an athlete, although in this case, VJ is probably the best athlete in the class, or at least in the top 3 of that group. It's that they love the game, they love to compete, and they get the absolute most out of what they have. And I think from everything we see and hear about VJ, he's the guy I would feel most confident, whatever his ceiling is, and I don't know what it is, I feel confident he's going to get there because he will put himself in position to do so. Now, I have my concerns about him. I always struggle with this type of player where I don't really believe in his self-creation, his half-court shot creation ability. But at the same time, you could say, and look at the tape of these Baylor games, right? There are times when he's driving into 2 and 3 people, where in the NBA, it is a lot harder to pack the paint like that. Yeah. There's more space. There are better shooters around you. And so things like his first step, his athletic ability, that stuff will matter more. And if teams load up on him, you're kicking out to a 38% three-point shooter who's a dead-eye guy who, if you hand that guy open shots, you give it to Maxey, you give it to McCain, you give it to Paul George, that guy can make the defense suffer a lot better than VJ's teammates could at Baylor. So I can see the upside to some extent, even if I'm skeptical of it. So I go back and forth on him and Ace. It feels like every day, right? Yeah. And I think right now I'm in more of I want to chase a star outcome. I want to chase Give me the 6'10" guy who's got athletic tools, who's got things in the bag, who is an incredible shot maker when he's rolling, and see what you can turn that kid into. But if it ends up that it's VJ, I think there's a very clear path for him to be a high-level player. And when you look at last night's game, Oklahoma City versus Memphis, and you look at the impact and Alex Caruso has on the second half of that game, and particularly in the last 7-8 minutes of that game. I know Ja Morant's out. I'm not saying that like Alex Caruso dragged the Thunder to a win by himself, but he just turned the water off on guys for 4 or 5 minutes in a row, turnover after loose ball, after deflection. They forced a 24-second shot clock violation between him and Lou Dort. The refs didn't call it. They gave them another full 24, and Caruso and Dort blow the play up again, and Memphis gets stopped again, right? Like those type of players, the culture guys, the athletes who can defend and want to defend, they can be team and culture defining players. And so that's why anyone who is a big VJ booster, and I think all of us like him on this show, it's why he's valued so highly by a lot of NBA teams.
So I looked it up while Kyle was talking. He shot 36.3% on catch and shoot threes. That is good that ranks in terms of percentile rank, 65th percentile, a 54% effective field goal percentage. He shot 20% on pull-up threes, which obviously does not rank well. It's 21st percentile.
Yeah.
So that's just putting into context, good off-ball, catch and shoot shooter. Like when you look at three-point percentages, a lot of threes are very different. Good off-ball, three-point catch and shoot shooter, which I think is really important to him because I think he needs that closeout to then be able to attack and make plays out of. He's a pretty good passer coming off of the dribble drive as well. Has almost no off-the-dribble three-point shooting games, and that impacts quite a bit his ability to self-create. I do think there's something to, I think what Kyle brought up, and it's part of what makes scouting difficult. It is like the college game in terms of just the space you have and the ability to help off of opponents is drastically different in the NBA. One of the real benefits towards teams embracing this 5-out, or at least as many shooters as you can get, is these guards have a much easier time creating and attacking the paint. I'm not saying he's going to be great, but this weakness he might be able to improve on, both because he gets a little bit older, a little more mature, some of the counters get developed, the ball handling gets developed a little bit, but also the spacing just improves because he has more talent around him.
Yep.
AA in the chat, frequent meeting. Good to have AA back. Says VJ is also 6'3" and can't really handle the basketball. He adds, VJ can't play with Maxey and McCain.
So he's 6'5", measured 6'5" at the Hoop Summit, 6'5" in shoes. I think he can clearly play next to McCain and Maxey.
What's his wingspan?
Well, that's where I was getting at. The one thing that, the reason I'm not completely 100% on VJ at 3, if VJ could defend small forwards, I would absolutely buy into it. Just take him number 3, go with it. Only a 6'6" wingspan. I think he's a 1-2 defender. I don't necessarily think he'll have matchups where he can defend a 3, but I think it's going to be tough to run 3-guard lineups with him as one of the 3.
I think he would be a little dependent on, and maybe Grimes can defend up a little bit, but I think Grimes, we talked about him a lot when they traded for him. He is more of the 1-2 defender type. So when those two are on the floor, you can guard the 1s and 2s, but then it's like, hey, Tyrese Maxey, or hey, Jared McCain, what the heck are you doing, buddy? Where are we sticking you?
Oh, man. Really, really good evaluations from the guys. We'll come back. We'll get into a few more of these prospects that we would hope to be talking about past May 12th, where the Philadelphia 76ers keep that top 6 pick, and we'll be making the selection in June. We'll do that when we get back right here on the PHLY Sixers podcast. All right, folks, we've all been there. You watch the basketball games like Kyle and Derik did last night. You see Ja Morant fall to the floor very, very hard after a little collision with Lou Dort. He's got some aching pains. So, you know me, I'm always having these guys on speed dial. Get the bat phone, man, ready to go. Ja Morant, Rothman Orthopedics, because, man, you're trying to push through those nagging pains. You're trying to win a championship, win a game in that series. But it's just, it's not getting any better because you are all banged up and you're not being treated the right way. Well, that's where we trust Rothman Orthopedics, whether it's running, golfing, playing basketball, or simply playing with the young kids running around in the yard or at the park. Rothman's expert specialize in treating all types of issues that you have up and down your body. They're focused on high quality, compassionate care. Will have you simply feeling much better and getting you back to what you love doing. So if pain's slowing you down, it's time to take action. Head over to RothmanOrtho.com/PHLY and schedule your appointment today. Rothman proudly serves dozens of communities across Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and even Florida with 30-plus convenient offices, urgent cares, and walk-in centers. Year over year, Rothman consistently performs among the highest volume of hip, knee, shoulder, and ankle replacements in the country. That's right around over 60,000. So pretty good sample size there from Rothman Orthopedics. Myself, again, with the ACL and the Achilles, they took care of me. That's why I'm able to get back to doing the things that I love to do as well. So if you trust Rothman Orthopedics like I do, I hope you do. For more information, visit RothmanOrtho.com/landing/PHLY.
And guys, you get your body right, you got to get your bank account right too. It's Financial Literacy Month. Got something to help you teach your kids how to handle their money. If you are a TrueMark Financial member, fantastic opportunity to help your kids and teens learn to earn, save, and spend wisely with a free Greenlight account. Greenlight is not just any app. It is a game changer for your kids, whether they're setting savings goals, learning how to track their spending, getting their allowance. I guess if they're teens, as they get older, it's like, hey, I got to manage the gas money. You start driving the car, got to make sure when mom and dad get that car back that they're not bringing you an empty tank. That means they got to make sure their money is in order. So Greenlight helps you manage all that. Each kid gets their own debit card. They can make their own purchases, learn how to budget, and they build real world money skills while you stay in control from your phone. So you get peace of mind and they get the chance to make smart, responsible choices with their money. So if you're looking for a way to teach your kids some financial plays this Financial Literacy Month, can't recommend it enough. Head over to TrueMark.com/Greenlight. Get all the details and sign up today. Don't miss the chance to set your kids up for financial success.
And as we welcome you back to the PHLY Sixers podcast on a Friday, and I talked about Ja Morant during the read.
Yeah, bad news.
Shams.
Bad news.
Yeah,
That
Ja
looks
Morant.
like season's over if he's missing game 4.
Missing game 4 with the hip injury that he suffered in the loss last
Could be
night.
Memphis tenure over, depending on how this summer goes. As
I
we
really
talked
thought
about
they were
the
going to
other
come
day.
back from 0-3.
Well, hey, they looked really good in that first half, and then, boy, he went out injured, and the wheels fell off.
Now, just looking at the stats, because I didn't watch the game because I was at the NFL draft stuff last night at JD McGillicuddy's. Great spot for the second consecutive week. Get to hang out there last night, watch that. Little basketball, but then it was so crowded I couldn't really focus on the second game. And it looked like Scottie Pippen Jr.'s numbers were good.
He was good in the – so I was watching Nuggets Clippers primarily last night during that window. Of course, the NBA TV game ended up a lot worse than the TNT game. So
Right.
all the backseat drivers and everyone was wrong. They put the right game on TNT. But yeah, Scottie Pippen Jr., I should say. That would have been quite a news story. Scottie Pippen comes out of retirement to play for the Memphis Grizzlies. Yeah, he was good, but when you lose the true engine of the offense, it's very tough. So they bore down on that Grizzlies team, boy. That Thunder team, when they get into, they've had a bunch of these games this year where maybe not a 29-point comeback, but they've had games where it's like they're down 20 to who? And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, it's a 5-point game again. They are just relentless.
It really was, and they played better last night. The first 2 games, it was like, oh, maybe this is why you don't fire half of your coaching staff a couple of weeks before the playoffs, because they just look like I didn't really see any kind of plan of attack. And that's even with somebody like Ja's incredible individual talent. It'll be, look, they've got one more game left. And then they've got a wild offseason that could go in a number of different ways.
It's going to be an interesting one for them. It's going to be very early for them because they're going to be done here very shortly. All right, let's get to another one, Kyle, as we talk about some of these other guards in there. And we've talked a lot about of Oladipo. Of course, I'm looking
Your
at
Edgecombe comps.
Edgecombe comp as Oladipo. We've obviously focused on Harper, and we've talked a ton about him. But let's get into another one. And while we've talked about Jakucionis, he's kind of also fallen a little bit out of favor for where we look at Fears and some of these others where because of his poor ending to his collegiate season. That's put a lot in question of where he would fit with the Sixers and even with some of the other teams in the league.
So some of the same concerns as Fears, where they were both good assists but high turnover guys, right? And I brought up earlier that I think some of his are less about, he's trying to make the tough pass than it is he's too slow to get by guys, or what at least was too slow against pressure and athletes at the NCAA level. And so they're trapping him, or they're putting him in bad spots on the floor, and he's coughing the ball up as a result of that. I do think he's certainly one of the best playmakers in the class. If you're looking for a lead guard type, you're hoping for someone that might be, this guy can run the offense. I think Jakucionis is near the top of the list there. Harper is the best guard in the class for me in that archetype. Mm-hmm. But I think Jakucionis, you certainly have a case for him versus Fears and some of these other guys. I've been struggling with, I need to go back and watch some of his early season games, because I watched a good amount of him down the stretch as the season got out of hand for the Sixers and we knew the draft was coming. And it coincided with him playing much worse. So I'm aware that I'm probably lower on him than maybe I should be, because what's freshest in my mind is the stretch run. And that's when he really struggled. I want to say he had 4 consecutive games to end the year with 6 or more turnovers. He had...
So here, I got some splits here. First 15 games, he shot 50% from the field and 41.6% from 3.
Yeah.
Pretty much a consensus top 5 pick at that time. Last 19 games, 39% from the field and 23.7% from 3.
Yeah. So Derik has said it on the show. I agree with the assessment of, I'm not that worried about the shot. I think his shot difficulty was high. I don't think it's going to be as difficult at the NBA level. Certainly if you put him next to a Maxey or a McCain, and at times maybe both, because he's 6'6". The concern for me is the way that he dealt with pressure and traps later in the year. And the turnover problem, I think, is maybe more prominent than some people have given it credit for. 13 games of 5 or more turnovers. He had 10 games, so like a third of the games he played, where he had more turnovers than he had made shots. That's bad, right? For a guy that you're saying, I'm drafting this guy based on the premise that I think he can be a league guard prospect. Now, at his size, he's like he looks like a firm 6'6", right? If you get a 6'6" guard who can shoot the ball, can play on or off ball, and also has good vision, and I think what I like in a young playmaker, what most people do, is ambition, right? You used that word before. He will throw ambitious passes. He will try to hit the skip. I think what he's really good at is the touch passes. So for the Sixers, for example, I think he's got really good touch on the lofted entry passes, on some of the stuff that it takes these young players a long time to develop, because
the Nick Batum.
They haven't played, frankly, with big guys, right? A lot of these guys come in, and the tallest guy they've probably played with is like 6'8". They're not used to playing with a post-up center or someone who is establishing deep position. So some of the plays that he can make and the passes he can make are not just valuable from an NBA perspective. I think they're valuable across the board, right? Like, I think that's something that it takes a lot of guards time to do this stuff. But I am concerned about the turnovers. I am concerned about the fall off in the second half of the season. Mm-hmm. And I'm also concerned about the defense. Like, he's got good positional size, but I think he might be a target early on in the league. And that's certainly not something I necessarily want to add to a Maxey McCain future backcourt.
Yeah, I think most guys outside of maybe VJ, and even VJ, like young guards get targeted a lot. Yeah. I think that's something.
And VJ's really aggressive, which teams will take advantage of early on.
He's aggressive. He'll get some fouls just trying to fight through screens. But I think most of these guards are going to get picked on pretty early in their career. I have much more a question of, can they grow out of that? I share a lot of the concerns with Jakucionis defensively. Good positional size, but I think he's going to get swallowed up by screens quite a bit. I don't think he has great foot speed to keep up with some of the faster guys. The question is going to come down to offense. I think Kyle brought it up. I think he's among the top 10 or prospects that could go in the top 10, even lottery. I think he's the best passer of the group, pretty comfortably, by the way, too. I think his ability to manipulate the defense, to wait out a rotation, anticipate the cuts and the reads, and make timely passes is really good. I think the shooting is not a big concern for me at all. I think when you look at the shots he was taking, those are difficult shots. I'm more interested, I think we get a little caught up at times with the shooting numbers, especially for college. One, because, your teammates and who you're going to play with is going to change in a big way going forward. The spacing is going to change in a big way going forward. But more directly, you're talking about 18 and 19-year-olds on a small sample. Like, that's just an easy way to look at data that is pretty flawed. And I think we focus on that more so than how it looks, and we shouldn't. I think when you look at the difficulty of the shots he was taking, the diversity of the shots he was taking, a lot of those threes were coming on step backs, contested step backs, because he was trying to generate a lot of offense. I think he's going to shoot the ball. And I think that combination of shooting the ball, especially coming off of a screen, along with his ability to get into the paint and really play at a controlled pace and manipulate defense, I think he's going to be a real good playmaker. He does have to cut down those turnovers. I think that's a very legitimate concern. At times, he just gets himself too deep and doesn't really have a game plan to get out of it. I think part of that, quite frankly, is just he will get better at it with time. Like, I don't think this is necessarily something like, he just can't beat a guy off of dribble, and because of that, he's in bad spots. I think he just needs to, like I said, figure out where his outlets are ahead of time, and he'll cut down on those a little bit. But, can he defend, and is he going to be a high-volume scorer? Like, does he put enough pressure on the rim to really score effectively in the half court? And I think that's going to carry him.
All right. Jakucionis.
I like him. I still like him quite a bit, though. And part of that's just we've had such a dearth of passing on this team for so long.
Oh, yeah.
And I think he'd step on the floor and be the best passer on this team. I also think when you're looking at people who can make Maxey and McCain better, both of them are so good off ball and able to play both on and off ball. I think having someone like that who you can, run Maxey through screens off ball, and Jakucionis can anticipate that and make those right reads, I think that would really help both of them. I think one of the things we saw with Maxey is when you ask him to be the on-ball point guard every possession, it's a little easier to game plan and take some of his strengths away from him. I want to get back to Maxey having open three-pointers in the corner. I want to get back to Maxey being able to run off-ball and having somebody who's capable of running the offense next to him, and I think Jakucionis could be that.
And I would add, to bring it back to the conversation we had about VJ, with VJ, part of the reason that you would say the star outcome is, let's say, unlikely, is because the pull-up shooting numbers that Derik mentioned, right? One of the biggest separators of talent at the highest levels is pull-up shooting, right? If you can break a defense by they're playing drop coverage or the big doesn't step high enough and you can knock down a three, that's what a star looks like in the modern NBA, right? And there's not really evidence that VJ can do that. Jakucionis, I think, has much, much, much clearer of a case as a pull-up shooting threat. In fact, it was probably to his, not even probably, it was definitely to his detriment in terms of the percentages.
There's a lot of confidence
that he was
in that.
so confident in his pull-up shooting, because I think his shooting talent is certainly higher than the percentages showed this year. It just so happened that he was pulling from anywhere and everywhere. Now, that was bad for trying to project and say, okay, I think he's going to be XYZ at the next level. But I think there's a much clearer case that if he irons out the weaknesses, maybe he's got a lower floor, and maybe it's more likely that he's a draft bust because of defensive concerns, turnovers, whatever it is. But if you just want to shoot for the moon and you say, I want a guy who can be that lead creative force and a big-time offensive guy, I think Jakucionis has a better case than a lot of these guys in the lottery.
So let's get to another one. Riaz in the chat asks, do you three have a consensus player the Sixers should avoid in the lottery? So with that would take me to at least not necessarily avoiding him in the lottery, but just more questions because of how he plays, even though Derik, he stands at 6'6" as one of the better guards in that top 10, and that's Tre Johnson from Texas.
He might be the toughest guy of the whole.
He really is, because I think in terms of just, like Kyle brought it up, one of the real indicators of star potential is step back shooting. And there's nobody in this top 10 who has a more diverse range of jumpers than Tre Johnson. Like, I think he can make a lot of those tough shots. I think he can play a little bit on and off ball. I think he can come off of a screen or dribble off of a pick and roll, and he's a threat to pull it anywhere. And I think, it's pretty easy to compare him to Ace Bailey, even though one's a 6'5" guard and the other's 6'9" forward, because both of them have great individual scoring talent and don't really make enough consistently right decisions, timely decisions, and aren't good enough passers to really make the most out of their potential. I do think Tre is a better natural passer than someone like Ace,
agree.
which almost makes it more frustrating when he,
doesn't.
Yeah. But the decision-making concerns, I think, are there. Maybe a little less for Tre than they are for Ace, but they're still there. So he is tough for me because there have been times where I'm like, I'm out. I've watched enough games, like I can't rely on
We had those moments on this show. I was like, I can't do Tre Johnson.
But then you sit there and you look at all the other guys we're talking about, like, well, this guy's got these flaws, and I don't believe in this guy's upside, and I don't know if he fits because he's 6'2", listed at 6'4", and that's nonsense. And you talk yourself back into Tre Johnson pretty quickly. So I have not completely, Tre Johnson frustrates me.
Shot clock winding down, man. Give him the rock.
He should be better. He should be in the top 5 of my big board, but he has so many concerns, but I can't quite quit him either.
He's by far the hardest one for me in the draft because he is in the mold of player I just don't like, right?
Yeah.
Like offense only, bombs away, and does little else, right? He's not
His
a good
defense
rebounder.
is so bad.
It's really bad.
He doesn't rebound really, and at his size and athleticism, he should be a better rebounder. I do agree. I think mechanically, I actually think he could be a pretty good passer if he committed to it and he wanted to play that way. Maybe you could argue that's coaching. Maybe you could say in the right setup he would play differently. The most important thing, though, is he is a special shot maker, right?
Yes.
Limitless range, limitless confidence. I think if you look at some of the little detail stuff, and I wrote about this at allphly.com on Monday, I think you see some of the same little detail stuff you would see with McCain, for example. So there's a play from the SEC tournament where he starts in the corner, ball swings his way, uses a quick pump fake, sidestep into the shot release, and it's all within a second, right? It's a instinctive pitter-pat footwork along the sideline, side dribble, and that's not common at that age, right? Like that's tough thing. That's a tough thing to do. Good movement shooter too. I think he's a better movement shooter than probably all of these guys because like Knippel's the best spot up guy at the top of the class. But I don't think, first of all, he's not moving anywhere near as quickly for several reasons, but he's just more of a pure catch and shoot relocation guy. Tre can shoot on the move, and they asked him to shoot on the move, and he's already shown he can do that stuff. So if you're trying to change not just shooting quality, but shooting variety, which I think is an important thing to separate in prospects, Tre is, I think, the best guy in that respect. But everything else is just I don't want to say a complete disaster, but ranges from to complete disaster. And the defense is a train wreck. Yeah. He's a scheme-breaking defensive player and that he does not care. Frankly, just gets beat all over the place. He's skinny, so he's got to fill out his frame. I just don't know what to do with him. But if you just want to take a big swing and you think you can coax him into more of you buy into the other stuff, I would get it. But I think on today, Friday, April 25th, I'm down on him. Talk to me Wednesday.
On Monday,
and I'm in.
Back in, baby.
It's from Godfather 3. Just when I think I'm out, they pull me back in.
See, and again, for people who may not have been here with us during the season and when we were talking more college basketball in the moment, I still like him, but I also understand those things that may be a really, really problem spot for him in the NBA. On this team, 6'5", 6'6" as a guard, we're talking. And a guy who can get his own and score, we're talking. The problem is he's got a lot of bad habits, and you hope that they can be coached out of those bad habits too. We're going into overtime quickly here. Thanks, everybody on the TV side. We hope you can join us at allphly.com to finish up on the PHLY Sixers podcast here on the Friday. Tre Johnson's bad habits, bad coaching at Texas, not good enough teammates. While I couldn't play on that team because I just wasn't good enough to play on that team. So look at me talking about
Hey,
these
if they
players.
listed you a 5'10".
Thank you. Appreciate it. We saw it, man. I mean, so the coaching was really he couldn't get fired fast enough when the Texas season was over. When they were done, he was out very quickly because he just simply wasn't a good
Tough
coach.
ending for Giancarlo Esposito.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
Every time I watch him, I was like, I just see him in Do the Right Thing.
He's got a SAG card, baby. That's all that matters, man. Go get another gig.
Gus Spring, is that you?
So can you coach those bad habits out of him because of those things? When those things really show up, a lot of times, man, when you can score like that, I don't have to play defense on the other end because I know I got to preserve some of that energy on the other end. What's going to happen? I'm still going to get the rock when we get back down the other end of the floor, no matter how bad I was on the defensive end. So when he gets into an NBA situation, and let's say a contending type in your conference situation for the Sixers, at least bouncing back, can you work your way back on the floor where they're not going to put you on the floor if you're doing those same things that you did at Texas where you got away with it. They're trying to win some big stuff here in the NBA. Are you going to be able to buy in and understand your role on that team where Nick Nurse is calling your number? You get out there and you jack up a shot, Kelly Oubre style, with 18 seconds left on the shot clock.
Oh, I can hear it
yanked.
now. I can hear we're in the locker room next season. Kelly Oubre talking about, I'm taking Trey under my wing.
Right.
And just feeling like, oh, no!
You're getting
anyone
yanked
but you
from that game, man. And those are the types of things that you hope that he can have coached out of him, have a veteran that coaches him, that takes him under his wing and shows him.
Remember Kelly complaining because like Edwards called him Unk or something like that?
That was very fun.
But I'm 27.
And I've said on the show, I've come to like Kelly and I have respect for how he has altered his game. But if you want to talk about for young Tre Johnson, ironing
leadership,
out some
man.
stuff, I need who's the Moses Malone of wings? Get that guy in here. And that's who I need on Tre Johnson.
Yeah, so I still like him, but I also understand where there will be those concerns defensively, decision-making when he takes the shot. And while he has a quick shot release in college, man, those defenders in the NBA will swipe down at that basketball very quickly to get that as he's trying to load up and go through his shooting motion to get that shot off, where they're going to swipe that basketball out of his hands really quickly. And he cannot mope. He cannot jog back because with those pitter-patter feet, he's got pitter-patter feet where he just kind of is that little slow malaise of I need to get back on the defensive end where they're going to run right by you, man. Dante DiVincenzo is sprinting by you to get to his spot and get a layup or find his spot out there on that three-point line as a catch-and-shoot opportunity passes. They're on a 7-2 run. It's a timeout, and Nick Nurse is hot, staring him down as he's walking back to the bench. Those are the things with Tre Johnson where he has to get those bad habits out of him. Is a situation like Philadelphia, a spot for him where he can get that coached out. And as Gene Ross says, have a Danny Green type of player as that wing that you're speaking of.
That's a good example.
To help coach him out of that. And that's where the question is. And could it be Quentin Grimes? I mean, even as he's a 5-year, 6-year guy, but is it still a young enough guy where he can still listen to him, have enough things in common where you can talk about that?
Well, so here's what I would also say. One of the big questions with Trey, and we can make excuses with the coaching and the situation, and I think those are fair things to bring up in context. One of the hardest parts of scouting is figuring out how much of this is this guy and how he played was a product of this situation, and how much of this is this guy wants to play this way and he's going to play that way no matter where he goes, right? I can't sit here and tell you, and this is why the interview process matters. It's why doing the character background stuff, talking to high school, AAU, those type of coaches, why all that matters, because I don't know if Tre Johnson is going to come to this team or any other team and say, yeah, I'm okay being the role player, right? And being more of if he is just movement shooting, if he is just spot up, cutting off ball, doing all that, does he want to do that, right? Because he played a high usage, high volume, I'm a featured player role at Texas, and deserved to, right? He leads the SEC in scoring. He had incredible 3-point numbers, like absolutely should have had the ball and should have had opportunities. But for some guys, it's not just a switch, right? You don't just say, I'm in role player mode now, or I'm in star mode now. Like some guys just play a certain way and struggle to adapt when they have to fit in a certain box. And if you can leverage what he does well and get him to do the other stuff, absolutely one of the better talents in this class. That's always an unknown. And that's where when the Sixers have some certainty about what pick they have and what they're going to do, that's when you get into all the nitty gritty details of how does this guy check out? Because some kids will come in and they'll get interviewed and say, hey, how do you fit into this team? And you'll have some guys give an answer that's a variation of, I'm not coming here to fit in. I'm coming in to stand out. Yeah. And that's okay when you're starting from scratch and maybe it's a top of the draft guy on a rebuilding team. When you're coming to a team that's got at least some semblance of a hierarchy and it has high usage stars, it's a little tougher to make that case.
Vince Alamatino says Paul George is a pretty good mentor, believe it or not.
He should be.
He is.
And Paul's a good guy, has been around the league, and he made some significant improvements to his game after he entered the league.
And he's in that range of where this kid, 18,
probably looks
19,
up to him.
That's his, that's his kind of guy as Paul George's favorite player. All right, let's squeeze one more in before we get out of here.
Ooh, wow, we're really going overtime.
Jase Richardson, just to talk about him because his range has been somewhere top 10, top lottery in general at 14, as high as high as 14. So Jase Richardson, just your thoughts on him and his fit here.
So he's been one of my guys that I was a early buyer on, and I just don't think they'll be in. He is purely, we're trading way down, and I'll take him as best player available because he's a smart player. We've talked about the lack of feel on the Sixers. He's a high feel player, right? He goes to Michigan State where Tom Izzo generally is not a one and done type recruiter. He wants guys who are going to be there longer term. He has guys that are juniors, seniors, and he plays through them. They have to work their way up in the hierarchy. Well, Jase Richardson was good enough and productive enough at Michigan State where not only did he play a lot, played himself into the starting lineup, and it was basically undeniable second half of the season. We got to play through this kid more. So very good shooter at Michigan State, good playmaker. I think, again, similar to Fears, the question for him at the NBA level, period, not just with the Sixers, is this kid big enough, right? Because I don't think I think he'd be a high-level secondary creator. I'm not sure he's a good enough creator to be a lead guard. Yeah. And so when that's the case, it's like, okay, you got to be able to offer something defensively, right? And I'm worried that he's so small that teams will just pick on him. I think if you had having James Harden at any point is good for your basketball team. Mm-hmm. But if you had more of that jumbo playmaker, right? If you had your institutional piece was, I have Dylan Harper, I have Cade Cunningham, I have one of these bigger guards in the backcourt, you could maybe sell me on him, on Jase Richardson as, yeah, okay, we'll have the smaller guy, and I think his instincts are good. I think his compete level is good. I think he can make some off-ball plays defensively enough that we're not so concerned about on-ball targeting and things of that nature. But that's the big concern for him. I think offensively there's enough there that, frankly, I think there's a little bit of similarity with Knipple in that I think both guys can run some pick and roll. They're good decision makers, connected passers, and guys that I trust to shoot. The main difference is that Knipple was listed at 6'7", and I think the worst outcome is that he's going to be like a shade under 6'5" without shoes, right? Mm-hmm. Where Richardson, he's clearing 6 feet, but by how much?
More, yeah. No, he was listed at 6'2" in shoes. He has a pretty good wingspan. Like, I think he's got pretty good size in that regard. Yeah. But when you're talking about a combo guard, doesn't really have lead guard creation. 6'2", it's just, to Kyle's point, like if you're not going to be a true lead guard, or, great setup man, high level scorer, you have to be a contributor, a good contributor on the defensive side of the floor. I think he plays with decent effort, but is he going to have the physical tools to do that? I've got pretty big questions. If you were going to say what's the ideal spot for Jase, it would be next to like a bigger lead guard. Sixers have sort of like the inverse of that. It would be one thing similar to Fears if the Sixers didn't have anyone on the perimeter that you were looking to build around. That is the spot they have the most depth at. That is the spot that is, where you have the most certainty of your future. I struggle to see the fit.
All right. That'll do it for our guard, at least for now, because we still have plenty of time before we get to the lottery. More things happen. More the buzz starts to come out a little bit more. You start to hear a little bit of things about these players and the teams, and we will certainly have those conversations as we get a little bit closer. Just a couple of quick news and notes. Yesterday, it was announced that for the Cleveland Cavaliers, Evan Mobley wins Defensive Player of the Year. When Victor Wembanyama went down, it was clear that it was going to be someone else, whether Draymond Green to Evan Mobley and a few others. Dyson Daniels also in the mix. Evan Mobley wins Defensive Player of the Year. So first-time All-Star, Defensive Player of the Year, #1 seed in the East. Fantastic bounce back for him. And for Draymond Green, Kyle, today you saw it and you let me know that
the Hustle Player of the Year.
If you
and
can't
he really
win
hustled for that Defensive Player of the Year
DPOY,
award.
you get the Hustle Award as a consolation prize. So Draymond Green gets the Hustle Award and from the NBA as well.
I was happy to see that the podcast propaganda tour was not successful. Draymond should have won at some point another Defensive Player of the Year award, but it would have. It was left a bad taste in my mouth the way that unfolded. He went from like nobody's even considering him to, he's the betting favorite.
He's a plus 100 out there. Yeah.
The Warriors ended up with a better defensive metrics than the Cavs and whatnot. But we talked about it. Like the Cavs in March were just like, they did not care and took their foot off the gas. Whereas the Warriors were gunning to stay out of the play-in and had just brought in Jimmy. And so anyway, congrats to Evan Mobley. This was really, for me, I think, kind of a make or break year for him on a lot of levels. You needed him to take a step forward for the concept of that team to work, and he has had an awesome year. So shout out to Evan Mobley.
Yep. Kenny Atkinson comes in there and he changes things, man. And Bickerstaff still goes to Detroit and it works out for both sides. So that's it. Daily Tankathon spin from Derek Bodner as
no pressure after Devon screwed it up yesterday. So the worst you can do is equal his miserable
at least
performance.
the chatters picked it up for me. They had 2 in the chat.
That's right. Rick Morse today in the chat said, I got the second pick. So good job, Rick.
All right. Let's see what Derek has on the Friday.
4th pick.
4th.
All right.
Oh, right in that wheelhouse.
So it's that VJ ace.
Yep.
Ace
Whichever
zone.
one's left.
Right now. Exactly. Yep. Whatever one is left. Take that.
That's what makes 4 so easy, right? 1 and 2 are easy. 3 is where you have to actually you test yourself, right?
Yeah.
And then 5 and 6 are like, I think I'm happy, but I'm still going to pull all my hair out.
We'll call Dr. Glatt for that and have you all covered. All right, folks, that'll do it for us. We want to make sure we let you know that, #1, Philadelphia PHLY Eagles podcast tonight for the second day of the draft, rounds 2 and 3. That will take place tonight starting at 6:30 with the team. You got Bo, Zach, Fran, and Zach at the NovaCare at some point during the night. And let's see what the Birds and Howie Roseman does. Good start for the first round last night. Let's get to the world famous last one of the week. Roll call.
One quick Howie Roseman note. It's always great when after the first night of the draft, people in Dallas are like, I can't believe they let Howie Roseman did it again. I was really enjoying all the
it's fantastic.
Crying from the Cowboys people.
It's fantastic that so many in the league are scared of him. What do they say? Front offices like
not even picking up 215 calls.
You don't pick up
Howie,
the phone.
Get a 267 or a 610, buddy.
484.
They haven't figured it out yet. We have a lot of area codes around here.
Get it done,
I know
man.
you can make it happen.
Get it done.
Good job, Howie Roseman. Also, good job by all of you. Friday afternoon, it's warm out. You got things to do. You're all hanging out with us. So thank you to our friends, Aaron.
What up, Aaron?
Mellow 3 Point.
Mellow, my man.
Brian Knight. My girl, Winona. Hedfa.
Hey,
Sean
Hedfa.
Ford. Vincent, who was locked in on the draft chat today. Lots of takes.
Good to see you, Vinny.
From Vincent S. Thank you for checking in. Bootzilla.
Boots.
Mom's grandchildren. What's up to Mom?
Hello.
Money Mar. Kyle Wright. Eugene Ross.
What up, Gene?
Who I think at some point said him and Aaron share exactly one brain between them. I'll give you both a little more credit than that. I've met you both at this point. Both seem like smart, upstanding citizens. Certainly smart enough to hang up with us.
It seems like they like the same type of players or team building.
We have Darkness.
Turn the lights down for again the Memphis Grizzlies.
Who apparently watched the show late after yesterday and said Darkness was honored that give him a whisper during the show. As see, we look out for our people. So on that note, I'm going to say thank you to Jay the Jungle, who I didn't see. Thank you to Marcus Blackstock, who checked in from the Dominican, I believe, yesterday. Yeah. Our guy Al, the 2-minute warning as well. But also shout out to Yams coming at the end. Music Lover 31, another person with a lot of draft takes.
Very active.
Thank you, Music Lover. Duck Holiday. Is that like Doc Holiday, but with ducks? Yeah. It's a good one. We got AA Frequent Meeting.
Good to see you, AA. Be safe out
Mary
there.
Overfield. What up to Mary?
Hey,
Big supporter of the show and of us. Thank you for popping in as usual. Igavini.
What up, Igavini?
Big supporter.
Always in the chat early.
Oh, yeah. Always one of the first few, even if he checks out at some point. DC Marley checking in. What up to DC? Ed Wright.
Eddie.
You better love somebody.
Love somebody.
I love each and every one of you. We're going to end on that note. Thank you, everybody, for being here all week. We will be back on Monday, 3 p.m., like we are every day, Monday through Friday. So hit that subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you get notifications each and every time we go live. Oh, look at that. It's Jess with the purple heart.
She's got the purple heart.
Who I glossed over. Thank you, Jess, for hanging out. Please hit the thumbs up button to say thank you, super producer Bree.
The best.
Making it all happen on the back end, behind the proverbial glass. Bree's working overtime this weekend, I know that, but we will all be back Monday at 3 p.m. We'll see you then. Until then, take care of yourselves. Be safe this weekend. Unfortunately, I think it's going to rain Saturday. Yeah. So enjoy your Friday. Enjoy a sunny Sunday. We'll be back.
See ya.
We all silly like the mayor.